The Grand Assembly Hall of the Ethrin Diplomatic Complex was designed to display social hierarchies with painful clarity. Nobles clustered in groups that reflected their standing, diplomats positioned themselves strategically, and everyone maintained careful awareness of who sat where and with whom. One woman sat alone, conspicuously isolated. Lady Vesca of House Morath wore formal attire appropriate for high-ranking Ethrin nobility, but the space around her remained empty despite the crowded hall. She maintained perfect composure, the kind that came from years of practice hiding pain beneath dignity. Human cultural liaison Marcus Chen arrived late to the assembly, having been delayed by last-minute briefings. The hall was crowded, most seats taken, and he needed to find somewhere to observe the proceedings. He noticed an empty seat beside a lone Ethrin woman near one of the observation galleries, good vantage point, and the woman didn't seem to be saving it for anyone. Marcus approached and gestured politely to the empty seat. "Is this taken? May I sit here?" The woman, Vesca, stared at him with expression that cycled through shock, disbelief, and something that looked like barely controlled emotion. You wish to sit beside me?" Her voice carried surprise that suggested this was unprecedented. "If you don't mind," Marcus confirmed. "Seems like a good spot to observe from, and you're not saving it for someone else, right?" Vesca continued staring, then slowly shook her head. "No, I am not saving it. You may sit." Marcus sat, pulled out his documentation tablet, and prepared to observe the assembly proceedings, completely unaware that every Ethrin in the immediate vicinity was now staring at them with expressions ranging from shock to something approaching scandal. The assembly proceeded, but Marcus noticed that people kept glancing at him and Vesca with obvious interest. He also noticed that Vesca sat with unusual tension, as if she was bracing for something unpleasant. During a brief recess, Marcus turned to her with genuine curiosity. "I don't mean to pry, but people keep staring. Is there some protocol I violated by sitting here? I'm still learning all the nuances of Ethrin social customs." Vesca looked at him, with expression suggesting she was processing something unexpected. "You truly don't know." "Don't know what? Who I am, what I represent to my people." Marcus looked at her more carefully, noting the high-quality formal attire, the noble house insignia, the careful composure that suggested someone accustomed to formal settings. "You're clearly from a high-ranking noble family based on your clothing and bearing. Beyond that, I don't know anything specific about you." Vesca made a sound that might have been surprised laughter. "I am Lady Vesca of House Morath. My family was disgraced 8 years ago through political scandal that destroyed our standing. I maintain my title technically, but socially I am treated as unwanted, contaminated by association with disgrace." She gestured to the empty space around them. "People avoid sitting near me, they speak around me but not to me. I am tolerated at formal functions because my technical rank requires it, but I am not chosen. I have not had someone voluntarily sit beside me in years." Marcus processed this, looking at the isolation that suddenly made sense. "That seems cruel. You're being punished for something your family did rather than anything you personally caused." "Welcome to Ethrin's social politics," Vesca said with bitter humor. "Association matters more than individual character. I am marked by my family's disgrace and will carry that mark until I die, regardless of who I actually am." "That's ridiculous," Marcus said bluntly. "You should be judged by your own character and actions, not by what your family did years ago." Vesca stared at him with expression carrying complexity he couldn't fully read. "You sat beside me without knowing my reputation, and now that you know it, you call it ridiculous rather than making excuses to move away. This is unexpected." "It's just basic fairness," Marcus said. "You're not responsible for what your family did. Treating you like you're contaminated is prejudice, not justice." He paused, then made a decision. "If you don't mind, I'd like to continue sitting here. The observation angle is good, and honestly, your company is more interesting than sitting alone would be." Vesca's carefully maintained composure cracked slightly, tears visible in her violet eyes, though she clearly fought to control them. "You understand that by choosing to remain beside me publicly, you are making a statement that most Ethrin would consider politically unwise. Association with me carries social cost." "Then I'm making a statement," Marcus said simply, "that I judge people by who they are, not by what labels others put on them. You seem like good company." That matters more than what happened to your family 8 years ago. Around them, the Ethrin attendees were clearly processing this unprecedented scene. A human not just sitting beside Lady Vesca, but choosing to remain after learning her reputation, treating her with respect that her own people had denied her for years. When the assembly resumed, Marcus noticed something shift in how others looked at Vesca. Not acceptance exactly, but recognition. Acknowledgement that if a human was willing to publicly sit beside her and treat her with respect, perhaps her isolation wasn't as absolute as they'd assumed. After the assembly concluded, several Ethrin nobles approached, not to speak to Vesca directly, but to engage Marcus in conversation while carefully acknowledging her presence. Small gestures, but the first social interaction Vesca had experienced in years that wasn't purely perfunctory. Over the following days, as Marcus continued to seek Vesca's company at various diplomatic functions, sitting beside her, engaging her in conversation, treating her like valued companion rather than social pariah, something profound shifted in Ethrin's social dynamics. If the human liaison respected Lady Vesca enough to publicly associate with her, perhaps her disgrace wasn't as absolute as they'd believed. Perhaps she deserved reconsideration rather than permanent exile from social connection. During a private conversation, Vesca revealed more. For 8 years, I have attended these functions alone, tolerated but never chosen, acknowledged technically but never included socially. I convinced myself I was unloved, that the disgrace marking my family had made me fundamentally unworthy of genuine connection. She looked at Marcus with expression carrying gratitude and vulnerability. Then you sat beside me like I was royalty. Not because you didn't know my reputation, but despite knowing it. You treated me with simple respect and dignity, as if my worth was self-evident rather than something I needed to prove or that could be negated by my family's past mistakes. Because that's what you deserve, Marcus said. Basic human dignity and respect. Those shouldn't depend on your family's political standing. Among my people they do, Vesca responded. But you demonstrated that your people measure worth differently. You sat beside me when my own kind maintained careful distance. You engaged me in genuine conversation rather than performing minimal courtesy. You treated me like someone worth knowing rather than someone to avoid. She paused, her voice growing emotional. That simple choice, sitting beside me like I mattered, has begun changing how others perceive me. Because if you see worth in me, perhaps they've been wrong to dismiss me so completely. Your respect has given me something I'd lost. Hope that I might be valued for who I am rather than permanently defined by what my family did. When Vesca's formal rehabilitation was proposed to the Ethrin Diplomatic Council months later, her family's disgrace formally reconsidered in light of new evidence about the original scandal. The council member who championed her cause cited an unexpected reference. A human liaison demonstrated more wisdom than we have shown in 8 years. He sat beside Lady Vesca when we maintained distance. He treated her with respect when we treated her with suspicion. He saw her character when we saw only her family's past. Perhaps we should learn from his example and recognize that worth is individual, not inherited. During a private moment, after her rehabilitation was officially recognized, Vesca told Marcus something that clarified everything. You sat beside me when I believed I was unloved, when I had convinced myself that I deserved the isolation my people imposed. Your simple act of treating me with dignity, sitting beside me like I was royalty rather than disgrace, shattered years of believing I was fundamentally unwanted. She took his hand gently. You didn't save me through grand gesture or elaborate intervention. You saved me by choosing my company when everyone else avoided it, by treating me with respect when my own people had decided I didn't deserve it, by seeing me as a person worth knowing when I'd been reduced to a cautionary tale about family disgrace. I just sat beside you because you seemed like good company, Marcus said. And that simplicity, Vesca responded, is exactly what made it so powerful. You didn't calculate political advantage or weigh social costs. You simply saw someone sitting alone and chose to sit beside them with genuine respect. That choice, that refusal to let others' prejudice dictate your behavior, gave me back something I'd lost. Belief that I could be valued for who I am rather than permanently defined by what others decided I represented. Some rescue comes through dramatic intervention and heroic action. some through careful advocacy and political maneuvering, and some come simply through choosing to sit beside someone everyone else avoids, treating them with basic dignity and respect when their own people have decided they don't deserve connection, proving that the most profound salvation, sometimes, requires nothing more than refusing to accept others' judgments about worth, and instead choosing to see the person everyone else has given up on. The human who sat beside the forgotten woman discovered that simple kindness offered without calculation can reshape someone's entire understanding of their worth. Because being chosen when everyone else maintains distance, being treated with respect when your own people have decided you don't deserve it, can restore hope that no grand gesture could replicate. And the woman who thought she was unloved learned that sometimes all it takes